So we can start by what have you all been told music is? And before we even understand that, let's demystify definition. Why are definitions so important? Why is it important for us to define what we do or who we are? Okay, why is that key? Why does that even matter? I can just say I'm a music teacher and then that's that. But there are questions that follow that statement. If I say I'm a music therapist, that definition, there are questions that follow from that. So how you define yourself or how you define what it is that you're doing gives weight to your profession and to your understanding of the thing that is that you're doing. Okay. So for example, number one, you're a music educator. You meet someone like, hey, what do you do? I teach music. What's really one of the first things they tell you? So you can sing, so you can play a piano. Can you teach me a guitar in 1 week? Okay, these questions, I'm sure they're not bad, but boy, do they make my blood boil. Because I'm like, there's so much more that you don't know. Then I started saying, I'm a music therapist. And they're like, that's interesting. What does that entail? So I've given them a different definition, but they don't understand. So then how do I explain that definition? So what is a music therapist? A music therapist is somebody who manipulates and engages the brain to help it achieve what it needs to achieve through music. Now, the minute I define myself as that, all of a sudden the thought of me singing and me playing an instrument stops. Everybody's like, so you're a doctor. The first time that happened, I was like, well, that's just interesting. I went from being told to sing to I'm working with hospitals and I'm a doctor, and all of a sudden people are taking me more seriously. Why? Because I exposed what exactly it is that I am doing. I am manipulating the brain. I am working with the brain. I am reconfiguring the very structure of the brain using music to help it achieve what it needs to achieve. And that is as a music therapist because I use it clinically and for therapy. But you as music educators do it as well. And before I was a music therapist, I was a music educator. In fact, it's music therapy and music education together. Okay, that's what I do. It's merged together, right? So even you as a music educator, you literally do what it is that I do. When you're working with a child or a student for over 5 years, you are literally changing the physiology of their brain. The brain that you have after 5 years of working with that child is not the same one you met. It has changed. Like if you were to look at it from an MRI or whatever, you'll actually see parts of the brain that have grown bigger than others, and we will delve into that. So the minute you start changing how you define yourself, the minute you start, telling a parent they're coming to learn music, I'm like, no. They're coming to fully learn how to maximize the capacity of their brain using music. Okay, so if you tell a parent that, they're like, it's coming to SMS and Ahuna, you see, all of a sudden they're like, okay, what just happened? But it's exactly what they're doing. They're coming to learn how to maximize the full capacity of their brain using music. And you need to tell them that music is, and you have to underline, the only thing that can help them achieve that. Nothing else they do in class will help them achieve that. Only music can help them achieve the maximum capabilities of their brain. Because when a child is learning a piano, or is learning guitar or violin, and they're doing it through learning how to read music, and they're doing their BRSM exams, during that session, the child is actually, the brain is doing what we call a full body workout. That's a full body workout for the brain. Every single part of that brain is being engaged and being touched. By the time that lesson is over, they're usually mentally tired and yet have had the most fun, especially when engaging them in the right way as a teacher and they're having fun with you. Okay, so understanding how to define what it is that you're doing will now change how parents view music, but it has to be we who change how we define it. Okay, so from now on, it is not, oh, come register for music, they need to do music. No. Your child needs to learn how to maximize the full potential of their brain using music, because music is the only thing that can help them achieve that. Now, unanyamaza full stop. And if they need to come and now understand much more, then you can now tell them we are targeting the hippocampus, we are targeting the prefrontal cortex, we are targeting, ukishaanza kurusha hii maneno in a sound biology and neuroscience, everybody's like, okay, fine. Like, where do I sign? And can I make sure they are in this for the rest of their lives, because like Nancha said, they are children who need music. It is literally their lifeline. But parents don't see it because they don't understand. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. They don't have the knowledge, but we also don't know how to properly define the power in which is in our hands, which is music. So remember that music is the only thing in the entire universe, underline that part, entire universe, that engages the entire brain. That when a child is working with you, when a child is learning to play the piano, I keep looking at my piano for some reason when I say piano. When a child is learning to read a piece and playing an instrument, that is a full body workout for the brain. It is a full body workout for the brain for you. Okay, and when you're seeing 5, 6 different children, and you have to understand what piece they're doing and understand, the way remember who had posted that they remember Winnie the educator, and she was teaching them that she could tell they have played the wrong note and she's nowhere near them. That ability that you've developed over time, parts of your brain have literally changed, and you're changing the parts of that child's brain. Okay, that's why definitions are key. How you define yourself, how you define what it is that you do is crucial. Okay, so I hope you have understood how you begin to define music. It is not, it's just art and on. No. There's a lot that's happening. So then what is music? What is music? We have been given so many definitions. It is what? Notes arranged in a particular way that are aesthetically pleasing to ear and eye. Aesthetically pleasing, that's the first thing they tell you. It's beautiful. That's why it's art. That is considered art. Okay? That's one of the definitions they give music. But I've just given you another one. Okay? So from now on, we should define music as the only entity that fully incorporates the brain's functions all at once. Okay? The only, because you have to underline the only entity, like hakuna ingine, si hesabu, si Kiingereza, si Kiswahili. It is nothing else in this entire you only entity. Okay? So when parents are going looking for my child needs to be a doctor, do you know the best neurosurgeons in the world play classical piano? And there's a reason they play classical piano, because it helps build and fine-tune their fine motor skills. Okay? You need to have scientific counters at your fingertips on what music is able to do to the brain. So that when they bring this, you give them the answer that they need to stay within the music program. Okay? So music is the only entity. And this time we are redefining music from the scientific perspective. We have known it and understood it from its artistic side, okay, which is what we have been sold for a very long time. But I hope there's nobody who is trying to enter and I cannot see them. Let's see. Everybody's being admitted. Sometimes when I get involved in the conversation, I can't see any. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. The definition of music has to change, okay, from the art to the scientific side. And so our new definition going forward, it is the only entity that fully engages the brain in all activities, okay, to achieve a better and more efficient brain. That is it, okay? Now, what is then therapy? Because most of you might want to use the term, and you see, calling yourself a music therapist, yes, you have to go through 4 years of this and 4 years of that and all this. But a music therapist is literally any person who knows how to use music on the brain, having a goal and objective to meet. We'll stop there. Okay? That you actually, when you're using music, you're not using music for music's sake. If you're teaching a particular child a particular piece, you actually know what it is that you're targeting. Are you focusing on the prefrontal cortex? Are you focusing on, engaging the amygdala? Are you focusing on engaging this? You're actually focusing on different parts of the brain and strengthening them. Okay, you're looking at how they are analyzing pieces and seeing how their brain thinks. Do they think linear? Are they able to see patterns from all sides? Do they see in 3D like children with dyslexia? You see, you're able to actually map out how the brain is working and then use music to help it become even more efficient. And this term neurodivergent, and neurodivergency, I find it as a superpower because, and especially a superpower for music, because in its divergence, it is exposed to such complexities. And what and why music is the one thing that talks to them, because music is a complex language. It is a really complex language, and children who are able to now understand it and get it and tear it apart and eat it up and just, do things that we look at and we're like, oh, you have a gift, you have a gift. It's because their brains are able to really enjoy the complexities of music, which is, the opposite to our sometimes neurotypical kids who at times struggle, and we need to become more creative on engaging them to love a particular instrument or to enjoy music sessions. But for neurodivergent children, it is what their brain eats up. It's the language that the brain craves because of its beauty and complexity. Okay? So that is what the therapy is. Basically anything you do to assist the body or brain achieve its targeted milestones for a time. Therapy should be for a time. Okay, it's not supposed to be forever. And what makes music therapy so powerful is because it is the only therapy in existence. Please note, nashinda nikisema in existence sana in relation to music. And I hope you're noticing just how powerful it is, because it is the only entity in itself. And I hope this is settling down how powerful you are as a music educator to actually have this thing called music that you teach and that you use, because it is the most efficient form of therapy for neurodivergent children. It is the most efficient form of therapy for children who have educational milestone challenges. It is the most efficient form of therapy for people who are undergoing mental stress. It is the most efficient all around. Second, coming in very close, kuja tu hapo nyuma, is physical exercise. Okay? That is why teaching music, playing an instrument, and running outside and climbing a tree are supposed to be best friends, or going to the gym and listening to music, because they're always walking hand in hand. Whatever physical exercise you're doing, there's music accompanied, whether you're listening to calm, relaxing yoga music, or you're listening to aerobic music, or you're just looking for that motivation in hip hop to keep bench pressing, music is with you. Okay, so when you're engaging the brain and then the body, when you're doing the workouts, those two things are what facilitate something we call neuroplasticity in the brain. Aki hata sijafika point ya kuongelesha, ya kudelve into the brain properly, but we're getting there. So music is the only entity, okay? That is how powerful it is in how it engages the brain, in how it heals the brain, in how it awakens the brain, in how it makes it very efficient, okay? Coming in second, very close, is physical fitness or physical exercise, because it is always working with music. Then let's come into education. I said we're going to start with definition so that we understand. So what is education? CBC 844, all other curriculums, that's not education, really. Education, and I learned this from reading the book Think and Grow Rich. I loved how they defined education. Sababu nimeona jina mengia. In how they define education. Education is developing from within, nurturing from within. Okay? Education is not spoon feeding, ama to shoving down the throat like it was done for us in 844, where you cram and then once you leave, you remember nothing. Education is developing from within. And that is what music is supposed to do, done right. You're supposed to develop the child from within. You're supposed to help them learn to self-control, to grow their focus, to, nourish their creativity from within. And because music is so heavily and seriously and intimately tied to emotion, it is the best thing to use for that. Education and music are synonymous to each other. Okay? So developing from within, it is uninvasive. All right? Music is uninvasive because it works together with the whole system, the soul, the mind, the body, the intuitive part of you, the spirit, everything tied together. And in fact, one of the most interesting things I came across as I was doing more research on music and neuroscience is the fact that for the longest time, music and medicine were the same thing. They were synonymous. You couldn't think music without medicine. In fact, in Greek mythology, the god of healing was also the god of music. Okay? That like walikuwa pamoja, hakukuwa na difference. All right? Then over time, it disappeared. Then after a while, doctors began realizing that to heal the body, you have to heal the mind and the soul. So they started looking for other ways to connect to the mind and to connect to the soul to make sure it is calm. And guess what they remembered they used to use? Music. In African culture, in African tradition, there used to be humming and chanting. When somebody is possessed, ni mtu ako na stress na hata hajui kile atafanya, yani zimeenda. And so there was humming and drumming and playing, and that calmed the spirit. Now here is the kicker. How many of you know Pythagoras? By a show of hands. I told you this one will be interactive. Nimeongea sana. Let me take a sip of water. How many are familiar with Pythagoras and where did you meet him? Comment section, chat, or just switch on your mic. Who shall I ask? During math. Yes, during math. Where else? Has anybody met Pythagoras theorem anywhere else other than in math? Kwanza Pythagoras theorem was just, if I had known what I know now, maybe things would have been different. Pale kwa siku na pale kwa triangles. Sikutoka nimeelewa hiyo kitu. Wacha tu let me just be honest. Sikutoka nimeelewa hiyo triangles. Sisi ndio watu tunasemanga tulipita thanks to the grace of the Lord Almighty. Na maybe mtu alikuwa na maka lilala katupatia tick by mistake. So that's where we know Pythagoras, si ndio? Here is the kicker. Tunajua ile kitu we define, how do we define the major scale? Architecture, huh? Yes, architecture bado wako. Yes, because of math. Yes, true. So how do we define the major scale? Felix, I don't think I've heard your voice today. Hi, Felix, can you hear me? Okay, mimi ni mchokozi. Hi, Felix. Are you able to talk?
Yes.
So how do we define the major scale?
Major scale in music or for music.
In music.
Okay, I cannot have a definite definition, but I know that is what producer do re mi fa sol la ti do.
Sindio? Yeah, exactly. It is the one that has tone, semitone, tone, semitone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically the major scale. Now, guess who invented that? You betcha. Pythagoras. Pythagoras theorem is the father of music therapy. The person who started all these things, the DNA of life, Pythagoras. Pythagoras is the guy who invented music therapy. Everything we know about music, its major scales, tonal values, aga whatnot and aga why, Pythagoras. Everything you study in music theory and everything that helps you understand music theory with all the scales and all the sharps and flats and minors and others, Pythagoras. This is how ridiculous this is. The father of math is also the father of music. All right? So there is no, hakuna mali mahesabu na music wanaachana. It's one and the same thing. In fact, he has a very profound statement that says there is what? There's music in the spaces that there is something about this music in the spaces of the atmosphere. I'll share it in the group. How we post Nihoma. Let's blame the cold that came upon me. But yes, Pythagoras theorem was the very first person to use music to cure mental maladies. Basically stress, depression, kuchizi, everything that required the mind to be fixed. Pythagoras was the first one to discover that music was the medicine that the mind needed. The father of math is the father of music therapy. So mzazi hapa akikuja kuambia, you know, my child needs more math. No, you have it backwards. Your child needs more music. Okay? And if they tell you, how can music help my child become better at math? You tell her or him there's something called spatial reasoning. Spatial reasoning is the ability for the brain to process mathematical equations, and that is built by reading music, reading complex pieces. I hope mko na karatasi na kalamu mnaandika hizi vitu mahali, ndivyo mkuwe na mzazi akikwambia tu namrushia tu. Because it is important. I have met many that I have helped calm down. Okay? That is how you help a child improve in math. You increase music lessons, not get them a tutor. I remember the day I was able to solve a complex mathematical equation for the first time, and it was after I had been seriously now reading music for like 3 years non-stop. Like I'm just working on reading music and becoming better at the piano. Yani nilikuwa nasoma cha ukweli. Message reading was getting on point. I remember I met a particular mathematical equation. I was sure I was calculating money for some reason. And ikaingiana. And I'm like, I would not have understood that in high school. And it's because my music teacher forgot to tell me that the father of math, Pythagoras triangles, is also the father of music. Are we together? Very important information, right? So that is why music, medicine, mathematics, they all work together. Now, this is where now I open the brain up for you so that you're able to see everything that every part of the brain that music touches. So we're going to go, I'm going to share something we covered in session 2. Just a sneak peek of session 2's training, which you are welcome to sign up for. Are you able to see it? Yes, here. Slideshow. So give it a few minutes to load. You don't want the time to be slow, laptop. So music is the language of the brain. It organizes chaos, restores function, and invites healing. Now, tena nayo hii tulikuwa tuna focus na trainees music and the brain. But yes, understanding how music affects the brain is crucial for enhancing music therapy's effectiveness. That is why, as music therapists, we have no choice but to understand neuroscience and neuropsychology. We have to study the brain, we dissect, we understand. And you see, that is music therapy. It's music is at the beginning of that statement. So if somebody comes and tells you art, there's no artist, is there a doctor? Is there a doctor is the question. Because this is what your child is starting to become by doing music, okay? So these are some of the things that music touches on. We have emotional regulation. We need to understand that as humans, we are emotional creatures, okay? That is what defines being human. The fact that we have hormones, emotions, okay? And knowing how to deal with the emotions in the right way to regulate them is what actually helps us become effective in our day-to-day. And people who are not good at managing the emotions are erratic. And that is most of the kids we call neurodivergent. One of the conditions they have is an inability to regulate their emotions. The only thing that teaches that is music, properly and efficiently, and without the brain having to feel the need to resist. Because there are other therapists called ABA therapists, there's occupational therapists, I'm sure you've had them, or of them working with some of the kids that you're dealing with. But those therapists tend to make the brain really fight against what it is that they're trying to teach. Okay, the brain really retaliates, and it takes very long for the brain to learn how to regulate the emotions properly. But music's ability to be non-invasive, to be calm, to produce hormones like dopamine. Dopamine is a feel-good hormone. You pull a chocolate, usikie mzuri, or you listen to a song that you love and you're getting goosebumps and all these things, dopamine is in play, okay? So this actually helps us regulate our emotions and make them work with us instead of against us, okay? And as musicians and as music educators, we are very good at managing our emotions. If you have never noticed, If you've ever been in a situation where everybody is freaking out and losing it, and you're like, why am I so calm? I should probably be freaking out. And you're like, why am I so different from other people? It's because you constantly engage in music. It develops this within your brain. And the part that is modulating, that is called the amygdala. It's an almond-shaped thing in your brain. You see it. Okay, then you have motor function. So this is basically movement, playing the guitar, playing the piano, playing the violin, fine motor skills. I mentioned before that neurosurgeons, the best neurosurgeons, actually do play classical music. They play a classical instrument, okay? Because that helps fine-tune their fine motor skills. Have you ever had, when you're teaching piano, especially those new kids, and they can never seem to remember which finger 4 is, or which finger 3, or tell the difference between finger 2 and finger 3? How many have had that experience? And you're like, you can't see that this is finger 3. Eh? Wanashinda tu wakimiss, finger 4, finger 3. How many have had that experience? Remember, interaction, people. Najua na wajaz, but interact with me. You can even, I think they have a part for name. What is it called? Kuonyeshana thumbs up. Ama face, reaction, guys. English. Reactions. React with a thumbs up. Ama nobody has experienced that. Yes. There is experience. That is happening, yes. Okay? So that does happen. I hope there's nobody who is trying to log in and not seeing me. Dear Lord. Okay. I'm sure itaonekana kwa screen. No. Then communication. Right now there's rampant, and I mean rampant cases of speech delay. Speech development delay. A lot of kids are taking too long to learn how to speak. And it's due to a lot of things, but it's also because the brain isn't being properly engaged when they're young. Now, the best and fastest way to solve this speech delay in children within the shortest span of time is actually through music. All the parents that come to me or to us as Music in Color, they come to us when they have been in speech therapy for a year, 2 years, and that child has only gotten 1-2 words. But after they go through the music therapy program for speech development, within 6 months, I'm not even kidding you, within 6 months, and I hope you'll catch the next webinar where we have a guest parent talking about how their child started speaking in such a short period of time with us, is in 6 months' time, that child's words are back. And it's communicative speech where they're actually able to do sentences and understand. Because you see, you can do words and not understand words depending on the kind of aphasia a person has. And not even that, we also have people who go through strokes, and that causes loss of speech, or what we call aphasia, whether Wernicke's or Broca's. Msijali, music therapist, akili too much sciencey. Be patient. But like I said, when you go through this training, you get to understand the science of it much deeper, because that's what we focus on. So music really does bring out the communication within the brain, and it improves verbal expression and social interaction in children. Then we have memory. How many of you can sing word for word more than 10 songs? Not a 10 kidogo, but word for word more than 10 songs. Unajua kuna watu wanaweza imba nyimbo za 2000s depending on when you were born. Si ndio? Na Bwire, word for word, bila kuskip mahali. And then ukiambia that same person na Bwire, unakumbuka kitabu cha physics? Form 4, last page, ilikuwa yasema nini? Anyone? Kuna mtu anakumbuka? Can anybody remember the last thing they learned? The last paragraph they read in Form 4? Hata Form 4 ni mbali, Form 4 ni mbali. Campus. The campus probably ni mbali. January. Are you noticing? Hakuna. Yet tuko hapa tukiimba nyimbo back to back. Nani wanakumbuka zile nyimbo za Mabrican, number 28, only for us to be told ni public one. My age is showing. Wengine wamama wawili, kuna hiyo. Kuna ingine moja, mbili, tatu, nne, tano. Yeah, songs you are taught at the beginning of your years. They're still in your head and you can sing them word for word. But things you just learned the other day, things you are being forced to cram, like chemistry. I have nothing wrong with chemistry, but I'm just saying, why can't I remember the definition of chemistry unless I Google it? Huh? But tell me a song by Boys to Men, ama Backstreet Boys. Kuna kawimbo ntaimba wewe word for word, kama tano. Huh? So music's ability to just attach itself to memory is amazing. And this is why music is the one thing that is being used to restore people's identity when they go through conditions like dyslexia and Alzheimer's. Okay, I don't know if you've seen that there are projects, especially in the West, where in homes where parents are taken and they have dementia or Alzheimer's and they're forgotten who they are, playing music for them, that especially music from your formative years. Formative years is mostly between the ages of 18 to 25. That is when you have fully developed what we call executive functioning skills. And you are going through the weight of life. That raw emotions happen to you between the ages of 18 and 25, emotions that you can at least understand or comprehend. So within the music that you're engaging and experiencing within that time really brings you back. Because who are you if not a collection of your memories and experiences? If you were to wake up and your slate is wiped clean, if all memory is taken away, including your name, like hakuna kitu umebakishiwa kwa akili, who are you? Mtu atakuuliza who are you? You're like, I don't know. Yes, when agitating, yeah, when you play music, it calms them down. Okay, so that is how powerful music is. We have to stop looking at it as ni like kitu tu ya kuenjoy when we are feeling happy. Hapana, it is medicine. Okay, wacha turudishe hii kuwe ndogo ndivyo niweze kuona mahali nilikuwa. So that's memory, recall. And even for kids, if you're dealing with kids who have short-term memory or they are learning something and they can never seem to remember what it is that you taught them, put it in song. Put it in song. Sing what it is that you want them to remember, and I guarantee you it will not be forgotten. Okay? The other thing is if they study in the presence of music, like listening to music, low volume, classical music when it's playing and you're studying, your brain actually retains the information much more than it would if you're studying in silence. Why? Because your brain's number one magical ability is to distract itself. Akili yako inajua kuenda nje. You know, there you're looking at something and then all of a sudden, you start thinking about things you weren't supposed to be thinking of. King Saul and David's harp. Yes, music therapy in the Bible. Your brain is very good at distracting itself. Even if in the quietest room, iko na padding, hakuna sauti inaingia, your brain will find a way to find a reason to go out. Okay? So when you're listening to music and studying, you're able to keep your focus even more. Now, let me go back. I'm back. Now, thank you for joining our webinar tonight. Every twice a year, my voice disappears. It forces me to take a vow of silence for 24 hours, which I have to do. In the next 2 minutes, I have to go silent, but thank you for those who joined our webinar from Notes to Neurons. And as way forward, giving a way forward and a path forward for this webinar, we are going to be giving a talk this month, every Monday, so that's the next 4 Mondays, to schools that have music students and to help them understand the science behind music. So every Monday, sign your school up. We'll be giving a 1-hour webinar or a 1-hour free talk. It will be one-on-one, so I will have to visit the schools. So sign up. We are only going to take
4 schools or 8 schools, especially if they are within the same location, from 11 to 12 and from 2 to 3, to talk to students. So if you're interested in this, sign up for that talk. We'll be able to expose the scientific side of music. And this is especially for those students who are doing music. Okay, so sign up. And we're going to have another webinar very soon. Tune in and see you then. And from now on, vow of silence for the next 24 hours so that I can talk. Bye bye.